Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is a quick production by I Am Media Books in preparation for our weekly pitch parties. We hope you are able to join us on Sundays in December at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now I'm bringing to you our founder and our word master, our words doctor, the guru of our organization, the one who has taught us all that we know about publishing. And she's going to explain the care system in which she developed to help us to pitch our book ideas in a better way. Her name is Ahava Yasharala. And here she is. You ready? Sorry.
Yes. Good morning, good morning, good morning, or good afternoon, or whatever time it may be, wherever you are. All praises to the Most High. Thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to talk through a few points about the care system today, which is a character development or a story development, pitch development model that the Most High gave me, and just explain to you why you should care. Essentially, care gives focus and direction to your pitch. So I know many of you may be new to pitching, but what I want to explain to you first and foremost is that you pitch every day. Every time you try to convince someone to buy your book or to assist you in the project that you're developing, you're pitching, you want to get that person to care about your project, which you care so much about. So the care system helps you very quickly develop a way to communicate the essential elements of your story in a way that makes sure that they can get an understanding of the storyline to help them care about the project. Maybe not as much as you do, but to engage them and make the project meaningful to them. So first and foremost, you want to deal with the character or characters. So ask yourself, who is your main character and how well do you know your main character? So this means you really have to sit down and do some in-depth study within yourself about who that character is. Most of the time as writers, we're writing about some aspect of ourselves or someone that we know very intimately. And so this is a very easy process to flesh out the character, but it's a process that oftentimes is ignored. And as a result, the characters come off as one-dimensional. The characters come off as very shallow. And you want to bring depth to your character. So start off by asking, when was your character born? What type of things does your character like to do? What things are in that character's natural persona? You essentially want to be able to describe your character in the same way that you would describe a close friend. So there needs to be a closeness. There needs to also be consistency in your character. You want to describe your character. What does your character look like? How tall is the character? How short is the character? What's the character's complexion like? What color are the character's eyes? What color is their hair? What's their favorite color? Everything that you know that you can communicate about yourself, you should be able to communicate about that character, because in the moment when you are explaining that character to someone else, you need to give them a overview and an introduction to that character. Because remember, most of the time, people that you're pitching to, whether it be a book company or whether it be a potential buyer, is meeting your character for the first time. So in the same way that back of your book needs to introduce the character and let people fall in love with the character and begin to care about the character, when you're pitching, you want to do the same thing. So you want to focus on the aspects of the character that you want the individual to know that you're speaking with. Now, the second thing about the character, once you know who they are, you need to understand your character's actions. What do they do and why do they do it? What drives the character's actions? And furthermore, why is the character driven by this action? So think about maybe things that have happened to the character in the past or things that the character wants to happen in the future that drive everything that they do. This brings that consistency to the character. because based upon the character's character traits, there are things that this character may or may not do. There are things that they believe which will guide their actions, but there is one overarching action, something that they want, something that they desire, something that they need in order to be fulfilled, that they are seeking out. That action drives everything that they do. So essentially, that action becomes the basis of everything that the character knows and seeks out. It also guides their relationships, which is kind of getting into our next point. So, as you think about the character's actions, you want to be able to very quickly describe to someone who the character is and what action they're seeking out. What is it that they want? This is what's going to cause people to relate to the character when they understand what their driving force is. The next thing is relationships. The relationships that the characters have give the characters dimensions. So as you're writing a character, you want to look at the character through multiple dimensions. And you can do this using relationships. Because as you think about your own life and how you see yourself in a completely different way than how other people see you. But when you begin to ask other people about your character or ask the different characters that you're writing about in those relationships, it defines the range of motion for the character. In other words, it gives multiple perspectives. So whereas a character may have something that they're driving for, that action, but they also have what you call blind spots. They have character flaws, things that they don't see or easily recognize about themselves. So these relationships are going to help you to form those additional layers of the character. So in this area, you want to ask yourself, when did those relationships begin to impede their actions? However, there may be some relationships that may enhance their actions. So ask yourself about every relationship that you are articulating about that character is, does that relationship impede or enhance that overarching action? And then you want to go back to when that relationship was formed and when it began to impede or enhance the character's actions, and really begin to paint a portrait or a timeline. These aren't things that you're going to necessarily immediately communicate when you're explaining something to the character, but these are things that you need to know when you're speaking with someone. When you're pitching, you need to know who your character is, what their actions are, and what their relationships are, because you are the expert on that character and you need to be able to explain that, which means you need to be able to readily articulate what those relationships are and how they inform the character's actions. Finally, you need to look at the emotions. Emotions work in several ways. Emotions form a sense of brokenness from the character, and they also form a sense of strength for the character. So you need to look at where the character's brokenness or strength comes from. In the instance of brokenness or obstacles, you need to understand how the character can overcome that. So, very quickly, when you're pitching, you want to be able to explain, first and foremost, your character. What is your character's most desired action? How do the relationships that they have in their life impede or enhance that action? And how does the character feel about those relationships and actions? So, is the character stable? Is the character unstable? Is the character happy or sad? And remember, emotions do not exist within a vacuum. Don't be afraid to explore um, the entire circle of emotions and understand that how one character experiences happiness or sadness may be completely different. So make sure as you're exploring the emotions that you're consistent with the character, consistent with their actions, as well as consistent with their relationships in terms of how they experience that emotions. And you also want to use their relationships to show the differences in emotions. So again, as I said, some characters experience happiness and sadness in different ways. So you will want to use the other characters or relationships that they have to reflect the differences in emotions to show a level of depth, so that your characters as well as your story overall will have more than one dimension. It won't be flat and shallow. You want to have depth to your stories. The overall thing is just that you want to make sure that you develop your characters with care. Using the care system will allow you to have multiple layers and multiple dimensions. Think about when you peel an onion. As you peel, you get deeper and deeper into what is there. And the same should be for your story. When you're first pitching the story to someone, whether it be for a potential publisher or a buyer, you want to give them an overall view of what they're getting. Who is the character? What are their actions? What are the relationships? And what are their emotions? Be consistent in that. And the more they get into it, the deeper the levels will go. So you want to make sure that you can slowly give little bites, because oftentimes when you're pitching, you'll have multiple opportunities to pitch. As you are introduced to someone who wants to purchase your book, they have the back of your book. So they'll see, okay, this is who the character is their actions, relationships, and emotions. Now they may open up your book. So the first page of your book needs to take that another step deeper. Same thing if you're talking to a publisher. You may explain to them who the character is, actions, relationships, and emotions. And now they may say, okay, well, go ahead and send me a query letter, which is something that you would submit if you were trying to further that relationship. So you want to always build upon this core. The care system is the core of your pitch. So think about that as you're writing. Don't be intimidated, and just break it into bite-sized pieces. The character, again, who is your main character? How well do you know your character? Remember, you're the expert on that character. Your actions. What actions drive the character's action, and why is the character driven by this action? Relationships. When did the character's relationships begin to impede or enhance their actions? And emotions. What emotions does the character cling to? Is there a brokenness or is there a strength? And how does the character overcome those emotional obstacles? This is the basis of the care system. Once you understand each one of these 4 components and make sure they're integrated into your pitch, you'll have a well-rounded pitch, which gives everyone all the information they need in order to care about the characters in the same way that you do.